Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 35. Snowy Night. King Akele helped Chen Xing settle down in the stone house first, fed his horse, then went out again within the twinkling of an eye. Chen Xing was used to communicating with him through gestures as they couldn't understand each other, so he didn't ask what he went out to do either. He only said, "I'll go roam around the city." He had always liked strolling around whenever he visited a new place. Now that it was near the new year, he only had 3 years left to live, so what else could he do? All he could do now was explore and broaden his horizons through new experiences. King Akele helped him wear a necklace made out of wolf teeth that was adorned with colorful gems. He did it mainly to differentiate his identity from everyone else, lest he get snatched away by the Zhiyungnus people. 400 years, it had been a whole 400 years. The traces of war left behind during the Han dynasty had already been gently smoothed out by time. The only monument left behind was the old imperial court of the Zhiyungnus, situated in the middle of the city built from black stones. Zhiyungnus, Rurans, and even Tile people had once occupied this place. Chen Xing walked towards the stone palace, feeling as if he could still see the glory it once possessed. A group of Zhiyungnus were warming themselves by a fire in the imperial court. When they saw that a Han had come, they scrutinized him out of curiosity for a while, and eventually someone invited him for a drink. Chen Xing greeted them simply, then went back to get some rations and shared it with them. "What kind of place is this?" Chen Xing turned once around and suddenly saw that in the depths of the imperial palace garden stood a square tower. The Zhiyungnus couldn't understand what Chen Xing was saying either, so both sides could only rely on gesticulations in order to communicate. Chen Xing stood in front of the tower and noticed the pattern formed with stone tiles on the ground. This was an array. It was a defense wall. Chen Xing immediately strode over in a hurry. He hadn't expected to see ruins left behind by exorcists before silence fell on all magic in a place so far away from the central plains. What was this defense wall used for? Besides the mirror world, this was his first time seeing such an array in reality. There was a stone gate in front of the square tower that weighed about 10,000 jin. Chen Xing tried to push it open a few times, but the stone gate didn't even budge an inch. Aside from that, the whole tower situated in the middle of the array was sealed airtight. It didn't even have a single window. There must be a magic treasure inside, and Chen Xing thought, "Forget it, I shouldn't touch it." There was a small spiritual lock on the stone gate painted with molten gold, and Chen Xing recognized its use was to open the gate. The one who designed this tower was rather ingenious. Before silence fell on all magic, exorcists with powerful magical powers only needed to muster the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and inject it into the gate through the spiritual lock before the gate could be opened. When the spiritual chi of heaven and earth got restored, he could come back to take a look. Chen Xing was confident that he could open this lock. King Akele returned with a deer he had hunted over his shoulder. A few Zhiyungnus who had been warming themselves by the fire in the imperial court helped him barbecue the meat. King Akele was clearly getting on in years as he was now short of breath. After chasing that deer for a long time, he was thoroughly exhausted and had to sit in front of the campfire to take some time to settle down. Then he noticed Chen Xing's worried gaze and smiled at him. Chen Xing couldn't help but think, if my father were still alive, he would also be like this ba. Once upon a time in Jinyang, his father had only had his son when he was 40, so he pampered Chen Xing a lot. Yet he didn't spoil Chen Xing into becoming an embroidered pillow. Instead, he would often warn him that the world was in chaos and had not settled down, how difficult the ways of the world were, the rise and fall of dynasties, the devastating wars that lasted for many years, how the Hu and Han killed each other, yet it was always the common people who suffered. While a man is alive, he must have an indomitable spirit and only focus on 4 matters: cultivating his moral character, governing his household, ruling the country, and pacifying the country. One must remember at all costs not to sink into the mire of hatred and set off disputes between the Hu and Han because of one's personal grudges. Aside from that, he should also be upright, dignified, and be a person of unflinching integrity, so that he could bring honor to the Chen family in the future. This was what made Chen Xing cultivate an excellent temper after reading the books of sages. Unless absolutely necessary, he would try his best to not be at odds with people. Theoretically speaking, one should cultivate oneself first before setting up a family, then governing the country and pacifying the lands. When the responsibility of pacifying the lands was imposed on him, Chen Xing barely hesitated before accepting it like it was natural. King Akele gasped for a while and finally felt better. "You're old, so don't torment yourself like that anymore," Chen Xing said, "it's the same even if we eat rations." King Akele couldn't understand him, yet he smiled to signal to Chen Xing that he was fine. Chen Xing felt his heart ache a little. He unfolded the map to ascertain how much more time they needed. "Yuduo, my son," King Akele suddenly said in broken Han language, "I want to come, protect you, be okay?" Chen Xing. King Akele continued, "I can't not care, thank you." Chen Xing instantly teared up a little. These few sentences in the Han language must have been learnt from the consort. "Thank you, Chen Xing." King Akele took the roasted deer leg and shared some with Chen Xing. Chen Xing nodded and reluctantly smiled. That night, howls of wolves could be heard outside Longcheng. Chen Xing couldn't help but worry. He was afraid that they would bump into a pack of wild wolves when they continued their journey the next day. In fact, they had already encountered several lone, wild wolves on their way here, and a few would often follow them. Fortunately, King Akele was a master of archery and would always be able to get them out of danger before their horse received a fright. But upon hearing that noise, one could feel that they were surrounded by wolves on all sides. It was winter in the 12th lunar month. It was difficult to find food in the snowfield, so the wolves formed packs in order to fight for food with the Hu people in the city. The next morning, the wolves stopped howling. King Akele didn't say anything and continued their journey, yet he was on high alert along the way. After leaving Longcheng, they entered an area with a huge lake in Barkle. After crossing the frozen lake, they continued traveling north. There were more and more trees now. Sometimes, the mountains and fields would all be covered with frost. The two of them moved through the forest in a zigzag fashion. They spent the night in a cave, and soon, they were gradually reaching the end of their journey that had stretched for 800 li. Enkarasha, the place that had only existed in legends, could not be seen yet. Misty fog filled their vision. King Akele had already brought Chen Xing to a place that barely had any signs of human inhabitation. Aside from snow, there was only more snow. There would only be a short 3 months of spring and summer here every year, and the two of them would often not say even a single word to each other for the entire day. Until one night when they spent the night under a tree, and the snow had stopped, and the world was incomparably tranquil. The starry river in the night sky flickered. Chen Xing scrutinized the map, thinking that they shouldn't have gone the wrong way. They had always been advancing in the direction of the North Star. King Akele's white, grizzled beard seemed even longer after combing it. His pair of deep blue eyes had been constantly affixed to the bonfire. Chen Xing kept the map, and just when he was about to sleep, he suddenly heard a deep wolf howl at the end of the mountain ridges in the distance. Soon after, the howls of wolves rang out one after another in all directions. "There are a lot of wolves," Chen Xing said. King Akele fanned the bonfire to rage even brighter, signaling to him that he need not be scared and to go to sleep. "Akele's," Chen Xing said, "have you been here before?" King Akele couldn't understand him. He shook his head and made a bed for Chen Xing, signaling for him to just sleep. "Thank you," Chen Xing said. "Thank you." King Akele didn't know much Han language and could only say this. Chen Xing lay on his side. The howling of wolves continued, which annoyed him a great deal, and he couldn't sleep for a long time. "Stop howling!" Chen Xing got up in frustration and shouted. King Akele let out a shh and made a gesture to motion that there was a mountain in the distance, so he shouldn't trigger an avalanche. So Chen Xing could only lie back down. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound coming from the ground. This was how Xiang Shu had heard the invasion of the living corpse army. It was an extremely weak sound, yet it put him on alert. King Akele was sitting as he kept vigil. Chen Xing immediately beckoned for him to listen to the ground. When King Akele crouched down, Chen Xing saw glittering green lights appear in their surroundings, winking to life like fireflies that were wandering back and forth. What are those? Chen Xing said, "It's winter, how could there be fire?" Then he immediately realized that those were the wolves' eyes. The wolf pack had come. King Akele slowly got up and surveyed their surroundings. He threw all of their firewood into the bonfire pile at once, added some butter, and the flames instantly soared up into the sky. Thousands of wild wolves circled them but couldn't help backing away. Chen Xing became nervous, yet King Akele said something. "What?" "Chen Xing, I don't understand." King Akele knocked an arrow on his bow. The wolf pack was wandering around the periphery of the bonfire, yet they feared the flames and didn't dare lean in too close. King Akele shook his head, signaling to Chen Xing that he need not worry. Chen Xing also knew that as long as they had fire, the wolves wouldn't get too close to them. This was how they had traveled all the way here. However, a figure swept by above them, then a huge pile of snow suddenly fell from the trees high above that crushed the bonfire. Then another woo sounded, as if a wolf was urging the rest. King Akele immediately aimed at the place where the sound came from and released his arrow. That arrow shot into the darkness. Without waiting for him to knock another arrow, the wolf pack took advantage of the extinguishing of the bonfire and lunged at them. King Akele immediately retreated and roared at Chen Xing. Chen Xing didn't even have to guess that he was telling him to run. He grabbed a bow at once and shot at the forest. The wolf pack swarmed over and soon swallowed up the two, yet their target was King Akele. Their surroundings plunged into darkness. King Akele roared angrily and struggled. "Akele's!" Chen Xing shouted. He immediately raised his hand and released the light of the heart lamp. The wolf pack seemed to be startled and started retreating one after another. Chen Xing turned back to look for their horse, yet their horse had disappeared. There were wolves everywhere. He kept evading them, wanting to look for King Akele. A black figure descended from the sky. When Chen Xing heard it, he instantly looked up. A metal claw that flickered with a cold glint was already at his throat. Right at that moment, a familiar voice shouted, "Get down!" Chen Xing subconsciously arched his neck, and the metal claw brushed obliquely across his face. The strange light on the claw flickered, then a sword flew out from behind him that blocked the metal claw. With a swing, it hurled the assassin brutally onto a tree. Accompanied by an angry roar, the entire tree broke into half through its middle and collapsed with all the snow on it. "Xiang Shu!" Chen Xing said, "Xiang Shu! Why are you here? Idiot!" Xiang Shu was furious. "I have been chasing you two for 7 days. Get up the tree!" Chen Xing climbed up, slid down, climbed up, slid down, climbed up, slid down, climbed up, slid down, climbed up, slid down. Xiang Shu finally lost patience. He lifted his leg and kicked Chen Xing at his waist to send him flying up the tree. Chen Xing hugged the tree tightly and continued climbing up, then shouted downwards, "Find Akele's!" Xiang Shu swung his huge sword out. The surrounding trees were all chopped down one after another and collapsed with an earth-shaking rumble. The wolf pack fled in all directions, leaving Chen Xing behind, who held onto a pine tree that was nearly 3 feet tall as he swayed from side to side at the top of the tree. "Behind you!" Chen Xing saw it, but was it a human or Yao? The assassin was extremely small and didn't even reach half of Xiang Shu's height. With both hands and legs, the assassin darted over from the snowfield and was behind Xiang Shu within the blink of an eye. Xiang Shu immediately turned around and brandished his sword horizontally to block. With a clang, the two metal weapons collided, and within the blink of an eye, that shadows swept to the back of Xiang Shu and reached out to claw at his neck. It was too fast. Chen Xing had thought that no one could rival Xiang Shu in terms of speed, but he didn't expect that this black shadow would seem as if it was flying on the snowfields. Xiang Shu turned around, then turned again, yet the black shadow followed him relentlessly. It threw itself onto his back and firmly attached itself onto Xiang Shu's back. With both legs wrapped around the tree, Chen Xing gathered a snowball in his hands and threw it down. A snowball flew over and hit that black shadow right on its face. Xiang Shu let out an angry roar, grabbed the black shadow, and flung him away. "It's a Yao." Chen Xing said, "Wait for me, I'll come down and help you." Xiang Shu finally saw the black shadow clearly, only to see a damn creature that was half wolf and half human. A human's face appeared within the wolf's mouth, and it howled hoarsely at Xiang Shu a few times, then it looked up to see Chen Xing, who was on the tree. It lunged over, its metal claws hooking into the tree, and it had already leapt several dìnghǎi within the blink of an eye. Xiang Shu immediately gave chase, yet Chen Xing didn't dare to jump down and suddenly saw the enemy right in front of him. "You are," in a panic, Chen Xing illuminated his surroundings with the heart lamp and instantly saw this guy in full view. It wasn't a wolf Yao, and neither was it a monster, it was a person. It was a child. The child was first dazzled by the white light, then he used his arm to cover his eyes and swung his metal claws. The edge of his claws revealed a peculiar rune under the illumination of the heart lamp's light. Those claws flickered with a phosphorescent light, and it was in the shape of dragon claws. But there were extremely few claw weapons in the world in the shape of dragon claws, and the gold inscription on these dragon claws, for some reason, Chen Xing unexpectedly recalled the records he had seen in ancient texts. In ancient times, the dragon god descended upon a place far north of the divine land. Its claws were obtained by Gongsha Ban and refined into a sacred weapon in the human world. It was called Kangsheng Yuli. "Hold on," Chen Xing said, "why do you have?" "Wait!" Roar! "Listen to me!" Chen Xing became frantic. "Listen to what I'm saying! You damn brat!" With the skin of a grey wolf draped over him, the child wore a hat made from a wolf's head and was clamping down on the tree trunk with both his legs. He swiftly clawed towards Chen Xing's throat to slit it. Under the tree, Xiang Shu released several arrows in succession. The child gave up on Chen Xing, and without even looking back, he turned around and swung his metal claws. With 3 dings, he actually managed to block the arrows and send them flying away. "I said, listen to me!" Chen Xing exploded. He grabbed a handful of snow and harshly smacked it on the child's face. Perhaps it was because Chen Xing had appeared too useless, so the child didn't guard against him at all. Unexpectedly, he lost his balance in an instant after getting hit and fell down the tree, causing the leaves to rustle along the way. Xiang Shu gave chase until he was underneath the tree, yet the child lunged in midair, rolled over, leapt several dìnghǎi, and landed steadily on the snowfield. He raised his head slightly. "Aou!" The child looked up to the sky and let out a wolf's howl. The wolf pack retreated one by one. Xiang Shu was about to take his bow and arrow out when within the blink of an eye, that child had led the wolf pack to retreat completely and disappeared into the forest. "Chen Xing!" Xiang Shu gasped for breath. Outside the forest just now, his horse had already run away from fright. He had rushed over the whole way the moment he had heard the wolves howling, and he had run almost 3 miles over here. Chen Xing, it was human. It was a small kid. Xiang Shu said impatiently, "I saw. It's not like I'm blind." Chen Xing ran to Xiang Shu's side and looked at the direction in which the wolf pack left. He said, "Also, he wasn't wearing clothes. And he didn't seem to understand what we were saying." Xiang Shu practically didn't know what to do with him anymore. He kept his weapon on his back, clutched Chen Xing's collar, and pushed him to one side. He shouted angrily, "Why did you run out of Chi Le Chuan without saying a word? Did I ever even cross your mind? Only then did Chen Xing realize this serious problem. He answered. Don't get angry, I just didn't want you to. In the past several days, Xiang Shu had departed from Qi Le Chuan, but he just couldn't catch up to King Akele and Chen Xing no matter what he did. The heavy snowfall had covered their horses' hoof prints, and King Akele was an experienced old hunter as well. Xiang Shu chased them all the way to Barkle Lake, yet he was always just a little bit behind the two of them. Along the whole way, the more he gave chase, the angrier Xiang Shu had grown. From the very beginning, when he had wanted to give Chen Xing a good scolding after catching up to him, it changed to giving him a slap. Then as his patience had worn away, now he just wanted to hang Chen Xing up and give him a few good slaps. Chen Xing suddenly laughed and said, "This is great. I'm so happy." Then Chen Xing took a step forward and hugged Xiang Shu around his waist and buried his head in his chest, saying, "This is great. Get lost." Xiang Shu was about to go mad with anger. He grabbed Chen Xing and dragged him away. Chen Xing explained with a smile, "King Akele said that he could show me the way. I didn't want to trouble you, wait. Where's King Akele?" Both of them suddenly remembered, then immediately went to search for King Akele's along the direction in which the wolf pack left. Xiang Shu looked down to distinguish the footprints on the snow, but the ground was already in a mess. Chen Xing ran to the front of the extinguished bonfire and said seriously, "Here. This was where I last heard his voice." What Chen Xing was most afraid of was seeing King Akele's corpse, but fortunately he didn't. In the dark night, Xiang Shu said, "If he's dead, that'll be on you." Chen Xing was at a loss for a moment and just stood in the snow. Xiang Shu was extremely angry at Chen Xing for leaving Qi Le Chuan so arbitrarily, so he spoke without concern for his words in a fury. When he snapped out of it, he thought that he had overstepped. King Akele escorted Chen Xing all the way to the north because he himself wanted to uncover the truth, so how could Chen Xing be blamed? Xiang Shu saw that Chen Xing looked like he was about to cry and suddenly felt very guilty. "He won't." But Chen Xing resumed his calm very quickly and pulled himself together. He said, "The wolf pack didn't attack us because they wanted to eat us, instead, they had followed us the whole way here. I'm guessing it must have something to do with that child. They wouldn't kill people indiscriminately. Akele's. Are you there?" Xiang Shu breathed a sigh of relief and followed Chen Xing. Chen Xing struggled to walk through the forest as he shouted in all directions. They couldn't find King Akele's, yet they had found the lost horse. Xiang Shu whistled, and his horse returned as well. They were at the boundary of the woods, and the wolf's footprints led far away. The sky was gradually becoming bright, and the vast expanse of snow was being lit up. Chen Xing looked at Xiang Shu. Xiang Shu couldn't make up his mind for a moment either and said, "Let's give chase and CBA." So the two mounted their horses and rode for half a mile in the wilderness. The sky was now bright, when Xiang Shu suddenly said, "Wait." Chen Xing saw King Akele's wolf fang necklace lying quietly in the snow and finally felt relieved. From the looks of it, he had been captured by the wolf pack. "Akele's." Chen Xing looked around and shouted. "He's not called Akele's." Xiang Shu corrected, "Akele's is a tribe name." Chen Xing, "Oh, then what's his name?" Chen Xing held the necklace and thought that he had to save King Akele no matter what. Along the way here, they had established a strange kind of friendship. This middle-aged man obtained a son in his old age after experiencing the pain of losing his own son, and he had even treated this young lad, Chen Xing, as a child. No matter what, Chen Xing must let him return alive. Xiang Shu didn't know what King Akele was really called either, and after thinking about it for a while, he could only change the subject and say, "Let's go." "You obviously don't know either," Chen Xing said, then mounted his horse and followed the retreat route of the wolves. "Xiang Shu, AI. Chen Xing." Chen Xing was on the horse as he glanced at Xiang Shu. Xiang Shu, do you not trust me? Chen Xing, I just didn't want to put you on the spot. Your Chi Le Covenant's great Chanyu, and now there are drought fiends causing havoc too. You have so many people under you, how could you just throw them aside and leave? Xiang Shu, who was the one who said that he wanted a protector to protect him. Chen Xing, but do you have any intention of being my protector? I can't afford to have you. Great Chanyu. Xiang Shu uttered in disbelief, I chased you for 800 miles. Can't you say something nice? Fine. I'll go back right now. Chen Xing still had some anxiety in his heart. Who on earth was that child? Why would he have such a powerful sacred weapon in his hands? And he had even less of a clue to the answer for the latter. When he heard Xiang Shu, he looked at Xiang Shu and suddenly, it hit him. He could vaguely sense the intention behind Xiang Shu's words. Xiang Shu was apologizing to him. Then, thank you ah. Chen Xing said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Xiang Shu. Xiang Shu urged his horse and wanted to lift Chen Xing up from his horse to teach him a lesson, yet Chen Xing urged his own horse forward and galloped away. Xiang Shu was astonished. You're so stable on a horse now. Achilles taught me. Chen Xing said, shoot me to death with your arrows. Ah! Xiang Shu urged his horse and caught up with Chen Xing in a flash. The two of them rode their horses side by side in the snow, yet their horses weren't being very obedient. Especially the old, brown horse. It would think of breaking free from the reins that were bound together from time to time, and it deviated farther and farther away the more it ran. It kept deviating towards the northeast along with Xiang Shu, who was riding it. This horse has gone crazy. Xiang Shu exploded, come back. Why are you venting your frustrations on a horse? Chen Xing turned around to look at Xiang Shu, only to see the old horse constantly running towards the east. On the other hand, Xiang Shu was tugging on the reins forcefully and in a single breath, had dragged the old horse back. Xiang Shu, I'll just let it go. This stubborn thing. Xiang Shu was scolding the horse, but Chen Xing naturally understood the insinuations behind it. Xiang Shu was in the middle of taking his dagger out to cut the reins when Chen Xing said, that's your mother's horse, you can just release it if you want, what would that have to do with me? What? Xiang Shu was stunned and said, impossible. Where did you find it from? Chen Xing relayed the consort's words. Xiang Shu's doubts grew even more and said, this was the horse she rode on when she first came to the north. Maybe. Chen Xing saw the old horse gradually calm down and run with the rest. Xiang Shu said, where does it want to go? Chen Xing naturally didn't know. The sun rose, and the world lit up. The white snow shone brightly and blinded their eyes, but fortunately, it didn't snow again that night. The wolf pack's paw prints were distinct and easy to recognize. After crossing the vast plains, they continued heading into the distance to the end in sight. And in that place, the legendary mountain mentioned in the legends of the Zhiyungnus people finally appeared within the misty fog. A long and narrow mountain range that stretched for dozens of miles towered aloft. White clouds curled around their snow-capped peaks, and the entire mountain range seemed to have been split into three by lightning, with a narrow cliff in its midst. In front of the cliff was a lake that occupied 1,000 qing, and it reflected the blazing sunlight like a mirror. On both sides of the cliff, the white snowfields were dotted with black dots that stood in great numbers, and crouching high above were more than 10,000 black wolves. The horses began to panic and retreated one after another. End chapter. Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 36. Grey Wolf. Xiang Shu released the horses and walked through the snow. Chen Xing followed behind Xiang Shu, looking up apprehensively, yet he didn't see the child who had been leading the wolves. Subsequently, Xiang Shu took off his gloves and stood behind Chen Xing, using both his index fingers to block Chen Xing's ears. Chen Xing. Xiang Shu took a deep breath, then let out a deep wolf howl. After that, it built up into a prolonged roar, one sounding after the other. At first, there was only an intense resonance, but later on it brimmed with strength and vigor, and it actually seemed to rend the heavens and earth with just the vibrations of the thunderous roars. It managed to shake the mountains. Chen Xing couldn't stand the vibrations and felt horribly dizzy, while the wolf pack began to stir and retreat. Chen Xing shouted, "You'll cause an avalanche." Right after he spoke, the snow on top of the mountains collapsed and fell into the crack between the mountains. The wolf pack began scuttling away in all directions. The moment the avalanche started, Xiang Shu stopped his roar, and what came next was an earth-shaking avalanche. It filled the gap in the mountains, piled up, and halfway up the mountain, a new path appeared because of the snow that had rolled and plummeted down. The wolves had all escaped long ago. Only then did Xiang Shu take off the huge sword behind him as if nothing had happened and say in a low voice, "Let's go." Half of the accumulated snow on Karasha had been shaken off by the vibrations, revealing a winding stone road within the mountains. Chen Xing didn't know how to comment on this ability of Xiang Shu's at all. He said, "With that sort of ability, would you still need to fight a war? Just cause an avalanche, and everything will be over." Xiang Shu wore his gloves and casually replied, "Most of the mountains don't have much snow accumulated on them. For example, I can't do it at the Yin Mountains." Chen Xing thought, "You actually answered me seriously? Aren't you a bit too arrogant?" The two of them went around the huge lake and arrived at the foot of the mountain. There were no steps they could climb up the mountain with, only the bare rocks that the wild wolves had used to jump off of and ancient wooden tenons nailed into the cliff for the Zhiyungnus in the past to ascend the mountain with. Xiang Shu made a pleased gesture towards Chen Xing. "Chen Xing. If Chen Xing climbed up like this, he would die, so he could only say obediently, 'I'll have to trouble you.'" Xiang Shu glanced at him with a mocking gaze. Chen Xing naturally knew that right after the two of them had fought on the way here, having to now swallow his anger and ask for his help was too humiliating. He was about to speak when Xiang Shu casually wrapped one arm around him and picked him up in a bridal carry style. With one leap, he landed lightly on the nearest rock before leaping off again. Chen Xing instantly felt like he was treading on clouds as he flew with Xiang Shu. "Such a Han," Xiang Shu mocked. "Aren't you half Han yourself?" Chen Xing retorted angrily, but on second thought, he added, "Why do you always look like you bear bitter feelings of resentment against the Hans? Your mother was clearly a Han too. Xiang Shu, if it wasn't because you Hans drove her into a corner with your ruthlessness and bullied a lone woman, why would she have had to escape to Qi Li Chuan? Chen Xing, if that hadn't happened, would there be a you? Don't deny the benefits you gained." Xiang Shu didn't reply to him, and a short moment later, the two of them were almost halfway up the mountain. Suddenly, Xiang Shu placed Chen Xing on a rock. Chen Xing quickly said, "Don't joke around." "Hey!" That rock was a bare piece that jutted out halfway up the mountain, not close to either the sky or ground. Chen Xing could tell straight away that Xiang Shu was trying to mess with him. He hurriedly hugged the rock tight and said, "I was wrong. Take me up." Yet Xiang Shu had disappeared from the mountainside within the blink of an eye. He whistled and said, "I'll go take a look at the situation first." Chen Xing said, "Get me up there first." Chen Xing didn't dare move and could only stand on the rock that was about 3 inches square in size. When he looked down, there was a valley 10 zhang high below him, and when he looked up, all he saw was a bare precipice. "Bastard!" Chen Xing hugged the rock and shouted, "Bastard!" Xiang Shu turned around the cliff and suddenly took half a step back, the foot of his heel scraping off a bit of snow that fell and landed on Chen Xing's head. Chen Xing looked up, and just when he was about to shout, he suddenly saw Xiang Shu extending one hand out from the edge of the cliff, his index finger shaking gently. Chen Xing immediately understood Xiang Shu was telling him not to speak. "There's an enemy up there." Chen Xing had a vague conjecture, since the passage halfway up the mountain was narrow, perhaps Xiang Shu was indeed afraid that if they really encountered a wolf, he would squeeze Chen Xing down during the fight and cause him to get hurt. Xiang Shu slowly turned around the narrow path, went around a piece of rock that jutted out, and saw a living corpse clad in heavy pitch-black armor and a scimitar in hand. The living corpse's outer armor was covered with frost, and it stood face to face with Xiang Shu. A black shadow general. That armor looked just like the one worn by Sima Lun that they had bumped into in Chang'an City. In the next moment, both of them moved at the same time. Xiang Shu withdrew to dodge, leaping into a somersault. The black shadow general unsheathed his saber and swung it down on his head. Within an instant, countless crows flew out of the mountains, letting out hoarse cries as all of them rushed towards Xiang Shu, who was on the narrow passage halfway up the mountain. Xiang Shu paused, then shouted angrily as if he had lost all reason, "Get lost!" Chen Xing didn't dare make a sound. He looked up, only to see that a black cloud had already formed on the mountainside that seemed to blot out the sky. It was formed entirely from crows. They began to attack Xiang Shu like crazy. Chen Xing took a deep breath, lighting up the heart lamp in his hand, only to hear Xiang Shu shout loudly. The heavy sword in his hand burst with a bright light, and he swung it to force the birds back. "Don't use the heart lamp." Xiang Shu was afraid that Chen Xing would attract the crows. He immediately swung his heavy sword, then went up the cliff again in a flash and roared, "Wait for me right where you are." Then he flew away from the mountainside as he leapt to even higher ground. That black shadow general bent down a little. Black vapor burst out from his body, gathering to form a hook that he threw up the cliff. It was only then that Chen Xing managed to get a clear view of the enemy's appearance. In just a short moment, Xiang Shu had already disappeared into the other side of the cliff, while the black shadow general and a huge group of crows were like ominous clouds that chased right after him. Chen Xing wanted to climb up, but he wasn't as skilled as Xiang Shu at all and almost fell down the cliff. It was fortunate that Xiang Shu hadn't carried him up to the cliff's narrow passageway, otherwise when they had met face to face with the enemies, they would have definitely been ambushed, and Xiang Shu couldn't have gone all out while carrying Chen Xing. He could only hope that right at that moment, Chen Xing suddenly felt a sense of danger. A wolf howled. Wolf claws suddenly struck at him from behind. Chen Xing turned around. He didn't know when, but a huge pack of wolves had already gathered on the rock by the cliff. "Crap! I'm warning you guys," Chen Xing said, "I know martial arts too." 3 wolves pounced at him and instantly lifted him down from the rock. Chen Xing let out a blood-curdling scream. Xiang Shu, who was crossing the mountain range, suddenly turned around, shock evident in his eyes. He slowed down, but the black shadow general had already rushed over. Chen Xing felt the world spinning around him as he was dragged down from halfway up the mountain. His body kept falling, yet his nape was bitten by a wolf in midair before he was flung away. After which, the wolves knocked him around in mid-air, one after another, and when they finally got to the canyon, the biggest wolf bit his waist and instantly held him in its mouth. However, it didn't hurt Chen Xing and instead rushed deep into the canyon with Chen Xing in its mouth. "Chen Xing, this is so gross. Why do you have so much saliva?" Chen Xing was drenched in saliva from being held in the wolf's mouth, and Chen Xing's face was all moist from it as well. He kept struggling and freed one hand from the wolf's mouth to harshly slap the wolf in its face. However, the giant wolf was truly too big and was completely indifferent to his efforts. Within an instant, 10,000 wolves rushed into the canyon together, and their dash lasted for nearly a quarter of an hour. When they arrived outside a cave, they flung Chen Xing away and onto the ground. Who? Chen Xing wiped his face and crawled up from the snow, gasping constantly for breath. And where was this? Chen Xing found himself in a dim valley. Instead of calling it a valley, it might be better to call it a cave instead. At the bottom of an open-air space surrounded by steep cliffs was a cave. Rocks were scattered around it in a mass that stacked atop one another, and black wolves crouched low everywhere. The mouth of the cave was covered with a piece of tiger skin. Under the light of day, a small, fox-like figure slowly walked out from within. Although it was small, it seemed like an extremely dangerous beast. The pack of wolves all bowed to it one after another. Chen Xing kept moving back, thinking, you guys just like to bully scholars, right? Wait till Xiang Shu frees himself, then just wait and see if he'll beat you bunch of beasts to death. Under the light, Chen Xing suddenly saw the appearance of the small animal. Clearly it was human. Why is it you? Chen Xing shouted. Whoa! The child let out an angry roar, then lunged from the ground and wrapped both legs around Chen Xing's waist and pushed him down onto the snow outside the cave. Chen Xing shouted, damn brat! What do you want? That child no longer had the dragon claws in his hands, and both his hands were downright dirty. After pushing Chen Xing down, he grabbed 2 handfuls of snow and slapped him back and forth, smudging the pile of snow all over Chen Xing's face before stuffing his mouth with snow as well. Chen Xing, cough cough, let me go, woo! I said. Enough. Chen Xing was being held down on the ground and couldn't fight back at all while being bullied by a child. He finally exploded. That child was clearly taking revenge for the time when Chen Xing had hit him from the tree, and after his revenge was over, he jumped up again and squatted on a rock with both his legs slightly ajar. With a wolf cap on his head, he looked down at Chen Xing from above. Chen Xing struggled to get up, battered and exhausted as he patted off the snow on his body. Ask your family's grown-up to come out and talk. Chen Xing demanded angrily, where's Achilles? Where did you take him? That child's face was filled with doubt as he stared at Chen Xing. Chen Xing studied this child and finally saw his appearance and figure clearly. The child was both dark and skinny, and seemed to be about 8 or 9 years old. Even though it was winter, his chest was exposed, and he didn't seem to fear the cold in the slightest. His legs were wrapped in beast skin while he wore a steel blue wolf cap on his head. That wolf skin was one whole piece and also acted as a cloak. Between his crotch, there was only a beast skin with decorative patterns wrapped around his waist, and he now had his legs open wide without any decency. Aren't you ashamed? Chen Xing said, don't you have pants at home? Could you wear some pants first? The child clearly didn't understand him. With just one slight movement, the pack of wolves turned around and crouched down behind him, staring threateningly at Chen Xing. Chen Xing surveyed his surroundings and thought, I've truly had enough. Who on earth is this child? Was he raised by wolves? He had once heard that in the mountains, some human babies would be occasionally picked up by wild wolves, and they would look just like this after being raised by them. Can you speak the Zhiyungnus language? Chen Xing thought that it was normal for this damn brat to not understand the Han language, so he tried speaking in Zhiyungnus. When he saw that the other party didn't respond, he switched to the Zhiyungnus language. The child was still studying him and never stopped his considering look, as if he was wondering if this guy would taste better roasted or raw. Chen Xing switched to the stiff, ancient Zhiyungnus language that he had learned on the way here and asked again, where's the adult in your family? Who are you? Some hesitation could be seen in the child's gaze, and Chen Xing immediately knew that he had understood. He took a step forward, yet the child let out a threatening roar, and the pack of wolves were instantly nervous again. Chen Xing only understood a little ancient Zhiyungnus language. With his broken ancient Zhiyungnus, he asked a few questions with words that didn't truly convey his meaning. The child didn't answer him and revealed a doubtful expression, looking like he was thinking about something. Chen Xing couldn't be any more familiar with that expression. Xiang Shu often wore it as well. It was an expression that signaled that they were wary, yet also keen on trusting the other party, an expression of hesitation. Shall I sing you a song? Chen Xing emulated the Chi Le Chuan people and sang, Chi Le Chuan, under the Yin Mountains. The child's expression relaxed a little, and the pack of wolves gradually retreated as well. They could clearly sense that Chen Xing wasn't hostile. Once he was done singing, Chen Xing had second thoughts and suddenly thought that there was something strange about this. Just now, the asshole who pursued Xiang Shu was a drought friend, but this child was clearly not with them. Did you see the crows? Chen Xing copied a crow's cry and flapped his arms a few times, saying, "Ah! Ah!" The child suddenly laughed, yet Chen Xing couldn't laugh. He pointed to another direction and said, "My protector ran after the crows." The child put on a stern expression as well. Chen Xing held his forehead with one hand. What should he do now? He's dying here. Soon after, that child went back and took out a dragon claw that he put on his left hand. Chen Xing remembered that the Kangsheng Yuli came in a set of 2 claws, so why did it turn into one now? May I take a look? Chen Xing asked. The child watched Chen Xing vigilantly as Chen Xing reached out, then lifted his hand to claw at him. Chen Xing quickly withdrew his hand. The child motioned for him to get out of the way, then he used his claws to start drawing on the snow. Chen Xing. With his hands on his knees, Chen Xing looked down at the zigzag lines drawn by the child. No, no, Chen Xing said, I was talking about crows, what the hell are you drawing? A map. Chen Xing turned around and picked up a branch. He drew a few birds, then drew a small person holding a sword in front, and another person chasing from behind, then he drew a few mountains below. The child roared angrily, then wiped away Chen Xing's drawings. He reached out with his claws in a bid to claw at him, and Chen Xing would be sliced apart if he was just touched by it, so Chen Xing could only cower and quickly say, "Okay, okay, you draw, I won't fight you." The child drew for a long while and seemed to forget some things as he even scratched his head for a long time in between. At last, he barely managed to finish his drawing that he showed to Chen Xing. "Ah! You drew really well." Chen Xing's thoughts weren't on accompanying this child to draw at all. He was extremely anxious about the situation on Xiangshu's side. The child beckoned again to motion for him to go over, so Chen Xing went closer. The child then put the dragon claw that flashed with a cold glint on his neck. "Please excuse this humble one for not understanding it." "Ah!" Chen Xing wailed in anguish, "Why are you like this? Isn't it enough for me to say that you drew really well?" "Wait," Chen Xing suddenly saw something and said, "These are words." This was the Great Seal script. Chen Xing was flabbergasted. This damn brat can actually write in the Great Seal script. "Xiao, Shan." Chen Xing said, "Where's that?" When the child heard those 2 words, his eyes lit up in an instant and he nodded at Chen Xing. "It's your name?" Chen Xing asked. "You're called Xiao Shan." The child pointed at himself and nodded. "Chen Xing, worthy little brother, that truly is a nice name. Now you can let me go ba." Xiao Shan lifted his claws and gave the wolf pack directions, seeming very much like an alpha wolf. His expression turned stern, and the wolf pack gathered over, and they instead left Chen Xing at one side. He heard Xiao Shan suppress some grunts in his throat, and after that, he arched his neck again and cried out with an aou. "Where is he?" Chen Xing asked, "Where did you take King Akele to? Return him to me." The wolf pack leapt in all directions and all jumped away through the top of the cliff. Xiao Shan lunged up the cliff, turned around and went down the passage, and with all 4 limbs on the ground, he ran with them as well. "Where are they going?" Chen Xing was utterly baffled and could only run after them. As Xiao Shan ran, he looked back and realized that Chen Xing wasn't there, then went back to drag him over a little impatiently. "My arm's gonna dislocate." Xiao Shan ran very quickly, and he was small too. Chen Xing bowed over as he was dragged along, and his arm was about to break. After running for a while trying to catch his breath, he quickly said, "I'm not running anymore, you guys play by yourselves ba." So Xiao Shan had to whistle, and suddenly, the giant wolf turned around again and bit Chen Xing. With just a few leaps, it had jumped up the cliff. Chen Xing's head faced backward, and no matter what he asked, the other party wouldn't answer, so he could only let it do what it wanted. After running for a while, all of the wolves stopped. At dusk, the sky was dark, they had stopped on a mountain ridge, and in front of them was a gap between two mountains. They had come from one crack in Karasha to another. Chen Xing, let me down. Chen Xing forcefully pushed a few times. The giant wolf was about to open its mouth when Chen Xing saw a bottomless abyss below its feet. More than 10,000 wolves had stopped on top of a natural stone bridge that was less than 6 feet wide. Chen Xing's soul scattered in an instant, and he quickly said, "Forget it, we should continue like this ba." The wolves were all very quiet, only the sound of Xiao Shan's Kangsheng Yuli scratching against the ground could be heard. Chen Xing whispered, "Worthy little brother, could you not make that sort of noise?" Xiao Shan glanced at Chen Xing. Chen Xing was being held in the wolf's mouth with his face facing backwards so he couldn't clearly see what was in front. He asked, "What happened? Are you guys lining up to cross the bridge?" Xiao Shan twisted his head, signaling for him to turn around and look. Chen Xing struggled to turn his body in the wolf's mouth, and after turning at a slight angle, he suddenly beheld an extremely strange scene. Under the stone bridge was a narrow valley filled with withered trees. Both sides of the cliffs were almost covered in crows' nests, fog pervaded its interior and was almost soaring into the sky. Within the valley, it seemed like a gigantic forest, and strong resentment was being released from deep within the forest. Two figures appeared in the valley. It was Xiang Shu, who was staggering as he carried an unconscious King Akele on his shoulder. "Xiang Shu." Chen Xing immediately said, "Go down and help." Xiao Shan nodded. He swung his claws, and the wolf pack leapt down from the stone bridge one after another. Chen Xing forcefully held back a shout with all he had as he fell with the giant wolf. He was on the verge of falling apart. Immediately after, the wolf pack gathered outside the narrow valley. The crows inside the valley were instantly alert and started cawing madly. While flapping their wings vigorously, they flew over from all sides and converged towards the entrance. Chen Xing was put down and he shouted, "Xiang Shu!" Xiang Shu seemed to have been injured. He wobbled out from within the valley, then suddenly stopped with some hesitation, as if he couldn't recognize Chen Xing. There was a clear air of resentment entwined around him. "Xiang Shu!" Chen Xing gradually came to a halt. He suddenly realized that the fog was getting thicker and thicker, and it had already submerged the entire valley. "Wielder of the heart lamp," a voice said in the fog, "you have finally come here. Unfortunately, it's too late." "Who?" Chen Xing was instantly on guard. "Who's that?" Xiang Shu put down King Akele, his voice trembling a little as he said, "Go, go. Hurry and go. Leave this place." The crows danced around the two of them, accompanied by their hoarse cries. Xiang Shu actually seemed to dread this group of crows a lot. His eyes held a tinge of blood red. The wolf pack had dispersed within the fog and began fighting with the crows. Xiang Shu. Not only did Chen Xing not back away, but he instead rushed forward. But just when he was less than 20 steps away from Xiang Shu, a saber swung obliquely down from the side. Xiang Shu instinctively raised his sword to parry that move, yet the black-armored general appeared once again in the fog, accompanied by the crows cawing wildly. "Crows, crows!" Xiang Shu's voice trembled, and his whole body was shaking. Chen Xing blocked in front of Xiang Shu. He raised his hand and shone the heart lamp at the fog. The black-armored general didn't manage to hit with that one strike of his and vanished back into the fog. Chen Xing turned around and shouted, "Xiang Shu! You!" Before he could finish his sentence, his neck was suddenly clutched by Xiang Shu. "I told you, not to follow along, WTH a dangerous aura." Xiang Shu's eyes looked just like when Feng Qianjun was possessed, they had turned blood red. Xiang Shu roared angrily, "Why are you always making one-sided decisions by yourself? You've been possessed." Chen Xing breathed in the ice-cold fog and his head spun. The resentment here seemed different from the one in the mirror world's Chang'an. The turbid white fog seemed to permeate one's yin and yang souls as it got breathed in. Xiang Shu must be awakened at once. Amidst the cold fog, the scene of a sea of fire when his family was destroyed instantly surfaced in Chen Xing's mind. He resolutely lit up his heart lamp to guard his heart and blocked the invasion of the cold fog. Then he lifted his hand and white light burst forth as he shouted, "Expel!" Xiang Shu was blinded by that dazzling white light. The shock he felt was far greater than that of Feng Qunjun's, perhaps because of the predestined connection between an exorcist and their martial god. He instantly loosened his grip. Chen Xing saw a chance and pressed one hand against Xiang Shu's forehead. Xiang Shu released both hands, his eyes opened wide. Chen Xing's shining figure was reflected in his eyes. He crumbled and fell to his knees. Chen Xing increased the strength of his heart lamp, pressing it against his forehead and pushing him onto the ground. A flash exploded within Chen Xing's mind, and within the connection of that white light, he suddenly broke into Xiang Shu's boundless sea of thoughts. "Heart lamp," that voice uttered from deep within the fog. The fog curled over again. The black-armored general was clearly waiting for this moment. He swung his saber down, but Xiao Shan rushed out from the side and raised his claws to block the general's strike. End chapter.